Right now we will do a press conference. So here we are with Frederick Polak. Frederick Polak. Testing again. Ben Dronkers, Fernanda de la Figuera, Richard Branson, and Todd. Yeah, I'm not sure why. So you're all free to ask some questions, but we will try to not mess it all up. So please, one by one, and stand up for a minute. I'll point you and say what you want to ask and to whom you want to ask it to. Okay? Vale? Everybody understand what I was just saying? Or not? No. Okay, we start. Who has a question? Anybody? Yes, please stand up. Sir, what's your name?
Oscar from Catalonia Radio.
Okay.
I would like to know why did you choose Barcelona for the new year? Why Barcelona?
Barcelona is a very nice city. I was here before, and then my other daughter, the twin daughter of Shiva and Shanti. Shanti studied Spanish here in Barcelona, so I came to visit her. And I love the city, I love the people, I love the food. And then by chance, you know, we came into this building, we're looking part of maybe we do something here. And then I come in this building and within 2 minutes I saw this is a piece of art. This is not just a house or something. And then I was gone and I think I'm gonna make a museum here. And that is 11 years ago. And I didn't have the money all the time because I spent a lot of money on my hemp project, most of it. Now we make some money again, a little bit with the hemp. Sensi Seed is doing very well. So we were able to finish it now here, and I'm very proud of it. And it's a beautiful city with beautiful people and in a beautiful country.
But there is not a reason more concerning to the marketing, economy, the tourism, or I mean, apart that you like it, but maybe
it is, you know, this is a museum, but it's not only a museum. It tells the story. It tells the story of a plant from thousands of years ago. All the history that is so beautiful, and we didn't learn it on school. And then you see the presence with all its possibility, what we do with Hempflex at the moment, and with us, 6 other companies in Europe now that are growing thousands of hectares of hemp. And then, of course, the medical side, like Fred knows a lot about, to me and to Leslie Grinspoon, and I think to Fred Polak also, cannabis is going to be the new penicillin for the future. The medical value of cannabis is amazing. And most important also for me, this plant is so important, the environmental part, you know, that we use all this oil for so many years, and we cut trees for so many years. In hundreds of years we cut 1/3 or more, 2/3 of the forest, and we're still burning it in big plants, you know, and make energy out of it. And they call it green. Cutting trees is not green. Grow hemp and you can do the same. And we did it in the past, we can do it now, and we will do it in the future, because I believe that cannabis can save the planet.
Woo! You're right. I believe you. I believe you, Dad. Anyone else? You can also ask your question in Spanish if you prefer, because we have translation for English. Nobody? Really? Yes.
I have a question. My name is Elena Gomez, Productions for Sir Richard Branson. I was wondering if you are familiar with the town of Figuera. Have you ever heard of this village? It's a small village in the south of Catalonia, and actually to go against the crisis, they did this plan which involves cannabis, the growing of cannabis, and also the fact of doing a research program around cannabis. And I was wondering, how do you feel about it? Do you think it's a good idea for the crisis? As an entrepreneur as you are, what would be your advice for them to go for it?
okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Well, personally, I think it's a good idea. I think Spain has financial problems, particularly amongst young people, and anything you can do to overcome your financial problems, I personally think it's a good idea. I'm actually here with my Global Drug Commission hat on. The Global Drug Commission was set up 2 years ago by President Cardoso, who used to be President of Brazil. And on the Global Drug Commission you have 12 ex-presidents of South America. You have Kofi Annan, who used to be run the United Nations. You have Paul Volcker and George Shultz from America, ex-Secretary of State. You have the Prime Minister of Greece. And you have myself as a businessman on the commission. And we spent the last 2 years looking at the global war on drugs. And having studied the global war on drugs, we've seen the enormous amount of misery that's caused. In South America, thousands of people have been killed in the brutal war on drugs to try to stop the importation of drugs into America, where the big demand is. In America, there are more black people in prison in America today. 1.5 million prisoners are now in prison in America for for taking drugs, and more black people in prison than there were slaves when slavery was abolished in America. An enormous amount of misery caused in America, particularly in the ethnic minority communities. And in the Far East, you have people executed for smoking dope and put into prison for life for smoking dope. So the Global Drug Commission has said that throughout the world, all drugs should be decriminalised. Nobody should ever be put into prison for taking drugs. If my brother or sister has a drug problem, I would want them to be helped. If my children have a drug problem, I'd want them to be helped. If they have a drink problem, I'd want them to be helped. If they smoke too many cigarettes, I'd want them to be helped. So, 225 million of the 250 million people who smoke cannabis or take drugs in the world do not have a problem. They use drugs like other adults use drink, and like other people, it is their choice of drugs. So it's only a very small minority of people who actually have a problem. And those people who have a problem, whether it's drink or drugs, they need to be helped. Now, Portugal and Spain are actually, I think, and I don't know, I know more about Portugal than I do about Spain, but I think they're good examples, or much better examples than most other countries in the world. I think that, from what I know, if somebody has a heroin problem in Spain, they can go and get help. They're not going to be put in prison. They can get clean needles. They can get methadone the state will provide it. And the state will help get them off. And in Portugal, that has resulted in a reduction in the amount of people who get AIDS by about 50%. It's reduced the amount of people that are breaking and entering into people's homes, and it's made a big difference to society. And now in Portugal, 10 years after they introduced that system, people don't really talk about it. It's just become a way of life. And I think Spain is moving very positively in that direction. And what we really need is more countries like Portugal and Spain around the world who treat people as adults, and if adults want to smoke a few joints or have a few drinks, they don't put them in prison. They don't try to execute them. They don't do they treat them properly. And obviously, they can tell people of the dangers. I mean, if you take too much cannabis, if you take too many drinks, if you take too many cigarettes, if you take too much of anything, it's dangerous. So but at least people are treated as adults. So I came here tonight on behalf of the Global Drug Commission just to say, to congratulate Spain and Portugal on their drug policies, and to say, if only other countries like America, could be as sensible, it would save so much misery in the world. This gentleman here was very, very ill as a young man in America, and you should talk about your experience, I think, as well.
Well, Todd, thank you for the introduction, and thank you for what you had to say. It is my first time meeting Sir Richard, and I'm really honored to be here, and that a man of your position in this world is taking such a leading role in bringing rationality to something that has been so rampantly out of control for so long. And I would like to point out, the obvious in this room that is going unspoken is that we're here in Barcelona, and for me, an American, where there is a statue of Columbus pointing to the new land, I wonder where Spain and Europe would have been in their cultural evolution had it not been for cannabis. Because when I look at a rendition of a ship, I see the ship's sails, I see the ship's flags, I see the ropes, the riggings, the paints, the varnishes, the clothing on his back was 300 years before there was an invention of a cotton gin. There were no cotton sails, they were made out of canvas. And really we owe our evolution with the invention of paper, a lot of the fabrics we wear, the paints and varnishes we use, to this great plant. And I think that Europe may have looked a lot like what Columbus thought was India, of all places, when he reached North America, where the people were wearing leather, living nomadically, carving on caves with rocks, while Europeans had great art, great sails, great ropes, and the ability to explore the world. I think we all have a great part of this history, and this is all our museum, because this is what, as a child, and many of you, was stolen out of our history books. We did not learn of our cultural significance to the cannabis hemp plant, or where the inventions of many of the common objects that we use today really came from. And I am really glad we had cannabis hemp in Europe, and we were not all living nomadically, wearing leather, going no further than a canoe could take us, because this is what cannabis gave us, this humanity and this evolution that we know now. And for myself as a child, I had a rare disease called histiocytosis X, and I had it 9 times in 8 years, because at the time in the 70s, the medical body thought it was an aggressive cancer and treated me with chemotherapy, radiation, and 10 surgeries by the time I was 10 years old. What it later learned was that my disease was more benign, and had they not aggressively treated it, it may have gone away on its own. So I suffered more through the ignorance of medicine than I did the disease I contracted as a 2-year-old. Now, I believe cannabis has that same disease. We think we know what's going on. There's a great quote that I believe sums up prohibition, and it is that the greatest obstacle to discovery is not ignorance. It is the illusion of knowledge. And it's what we all think we know about dope, or we think we know about marijuana, which is getting in our way of learning about what the true gifts of this plant really were. And I hope when you leave this museum today, you see this as your history, and not just a bunch of dopers wanting to legalize or recreationalize something that adults, in all honesty, should have a right to use with alcohol, pornography, or whatever else as an adult they choose to drive their cars. We do not deny ourselves the responsibilities of our age of consent, because our children may pick up the knives in our kitchen and do something wrong. So thank you for bringing rationality to this. Thank you, Ben, so much for putting this museum in such a significant place next to this port, where in many respects with your little iPhones, we all owe our evolution. So thank you all.
Thank you.